I'm here to talk about mental health in student athletes. Now, for me, it has been pretty hard this year. We have gone through a lot. So, at the beginning of the year, we had preseason. Preseason is a week of hell, and that's what everybody knows about. Every athlete knows when a coach said it's a week of hell, that means we are about to go through some things that it's going to take a toll on us mentally and physically. Now, when we first started, weights was at 450. Weights was at 450. So that means we had to be up by 4. And after that, we had practice at 6. We just finished weights and we're tired, and it's 6 o'clock now. Now after that, practice is about probably like an hour and a half. After that, you take a shower, 20-minute shower. Then you go to class at 8. Once 8 o'clock hits, you probably have 2 classes. So you probably have a class from 8 to 9:15, and then 9:30 to 10:45. Then after that, you have to go to study hall hours. Study hall hours, you have to do 12 hours in a week. So you probably knock about 3 hours out every day. Then after that, you have practice again. Practice is usually 2.5 hours in the afternoons. Once that's over, you have mandatory dinner. You are tired, drained, looking at people that you really don't want to look at the time. It's hard, and once you're done eating, you just want to go to sleep, but you can't because you have classwork, you have homework, you have to finish, and you have a test that you have to study for. So you're up, you're tired, and you finally can go to sleep. Go to sleep just for your alarm to wake up you up at 3:55, 4:55 again. Start your day all over again. It affects you. It affects you mentally and it affects you physically. And you do all that just to ride the bench. You give it your all. You don't stop working. You do good in school. You do good in soccer. You do good in track. You do good in volleyball, just to not be good enough. Now, many athletes are okay with that, but then there's some athletes who just strain. I have lost a friend from that. She gave her all. She fought hard, but mental health won. And this is a topic that we all need to talk about. It's a sensitive topic, but everybody needs to talk about it because it is ruining our athletes. We have just lost 7 people in the past month, not from the school, but from different schools. There are many athletes here who are struggling, and I think it's their time to talk about what they go through. So I'm gonna pass it over to some of the athletes to let them talk about their journeys.
I'm an international athlete and my first language is not English, so for me it's difficult to combine track and field and studies because we have important needs and sometimes you need to study, and if I don't understand the things, for me it's gonna be more difficult. For me, sometimes my mental health is difficult too because when I feel that I can do it, it's like, oh my gosh, I want to go to Spain again and try to do my major there. But here I have a good experience, so I need to enjoy it. I'm learning English, and I think that we need to do that when we have problems, mental problems, and try to solve it.
Alright. Student athletes have a significant amount of responsibility that's placed on them. When we have a student athlete that comes to Louisiana Tech, we explain to them that they're representing their sport, they're representing our athletic department, and then they're representing the institution. And when you think about that for a 17 to 23-year-old person, that's a lot of responsibility. And then when you add in the fact that Louisiana Tech is a quarter calendar semester hour institution, it becomes even more challenging. Freshmen come in here and oftentimes they've not ever had to study. and they have a 4.0 from high school, and they get into their freshman classes, and maybe they do all right their freshman year, but at some point it catches up to them and they have to learn how to study for the first time. Transfers, it's also pretty challenging for a transfer who's coming in from a semester institution to our quarter calendar, because what they've been doing in a 16-week time period, they're putting in a 10-week time period. Our student athletes lose the ability, and our students in general lose the ability to say, wow, I bombed the first exam. Now I'm going to get it together and study for the next exam, because you may have 2 weeks or less between the first exam and the second exam. So we do put an awful lot of pressure on our student athletes. So yeah, when you challenge someone, you have to support them at the same level. So we do provide access to mental health services. Conference USA has placed an emphasis on making sure that each one of the institutions provide access to mental health services, and we have counseling services on campus. We're also going further as an athletic department and making sure that our student athletes have access to counseling services outside of the regular quarter calendar.
In my opinion, for the most part, the pressure is like what makes you like feel not uncomfortable, but it makes you feel like, oh shit, I have to keep putting like the effort and all that. And also being international, it is like sometimes you feel like you don't have the support, like the physical support of your family, the closest people, the people you've been raised with.
Hi, my name is Naraya Parks, and I'm a freshman track and field athlete here at Louisiana Tech University. I know I'm not the only student athlete on this campus that can attest that being a student athlete is a balancing act. We have to balance our academics, our athletics, our social ability, and simply just the up and downs of life. And all of that is hard. Academically, coming home, I know when you're in season after track meets, after games, and still trying to find the energy to put our best foot forward in the classroom. Athletically, not only, I know as a freshman coming in, at first it was so hard to try to do my absolute best for my coaches, knowing that I'm here on scholarship, knowing that I'm here to perform. All of that pressure can get you, as well as your social ability, because when we're at meets, when we're at games, we don't have time to go to big events on campus or to find different ways to find friends and stuff like that, like the average student. All of that can be hard, and trying to maintain so much, whether that be a GPA, because we have to keep a certain amount of GPA for our academic and athletic scholarships, as well as athletically, we have times to hit, we have goals and expectations that so many people want us to meet. All of that can be hard, which is why it's important for mental health, for student athletes to be a top priority, not only on this campus, but on many other campuses in this country, to benefit and to lead to the success of more student athletes.
Hi, my name is Marshall Ellis, and I run track and field here at Louisiana Tech University. As you know, track is not a head count sport, which means that not many people get full scholarships. I was fortunate enough to receive the full scholarship, but that's only because my academics got the rest of what track didn't. For my mental health, this means a lot of things that as a freshman, I was blindsided by. Initially, I thought everything was gonna be sweet, like, oh, college is paid for, I just have to keep it 3.0. But I also happen to be a civil engineering major, and engineering classes are rough, to say the least. So having to balance keeping a 3.0, balancing performances to make sure that my coaches are happy, because at Tech, they can renew your scholarship every quarter. So that means if you don't do too well, your scholarship is in jeopardy. So that's a lot to think about when, say, maybe you fail a test and you get a C in a class, so now you're like on the line of 3.0. It gets stressful because now you're worried about school, but you also have to make sure you're training the right way, As you know, in life, there are conflicts, sometimes conflicts with coaches, with teammates, and you have to balance all of these things and make sure you're still performing to the best of your ability, because that's what they signed you to do, perform. So in the event that you're for some reason not performing, which happens to literally the best of us, that takes a toll on your mental health, because now you're thinking, why aren't I performing? Am I in jeopardy? Are they gonna take my scholarship? Which translates directly to the classroom, because sometimes you might be having a bad day on the track or at practice, or you might have a bad meet, and then you go to class like bummed out about it. Or the opposite, you might fail the test, and this has happened to me a couple of times where I come to practice with the worst attitude because I studied so much and put so much time into it. There's just so many factors at play that nobody really thinks about until it all happens. And when it does happen, for instance, winter quarter, things ramped up, classes ramped up, we started competing, we started traveling, so that means I had less time in class, more time on the track, more practices, we went up to 20 hours a week. It just got extremely stressful because my engineering schedule is blocked, which means that I have to pass math and engineering simultaneously to move on to the next class. So in the event that I did get a C, which wouldn't normally be the biggest of deals, my GPA would lower and lower and lower, and every time you get a C and you don't get an A to match it out, your GPA drops. And by, what am I in? I'm in spring quarter now. Now that I'm in spring quarter, I'm trying to manage being A1 on my GPA, which means pulling an A in calculus, pulling an A in engineering. I have to manage competing because I want to go to conference, pass conference, go to regionals, go to nationals. Like, there's just so many performance demands on and off the track. Your mental health really does take a toll. I've talked to so many of my teammates, so many of my classmates, and a lot of people who don't have the intersectionality of being a STEM major and an athlete are still having mental health issues. So you can only imagine what it's like to be a person who is in the cross section of both, and how that could take a toll on you, amongst the other things that you have going on in your personal life that might be at home away from school. So to sum it up, mental health in college athletics definitely needs more attention because so much flies under the radar. Every other week you hear about another student athlete committing suicide, you hear about the counseling services being booked. So much just flies under the radar that we don't pay attention to. And I really think that it should be more of a focal point moving forward.
Mental health is a huge deal in student athletes. Many city athletes go through many fights, academically, physically, mentally. It drains you. Many athletes act like they're happy, but in the inside, they're going through things that nobody knows about. People like Katie Meyer, Anna McMillan, and many other athletes are not here to share their story. So sharing this story and explaining to people what athletes go through and what they deal with and how mental health is such a huge thing, it's such an important video to just make and show people. The photos that you are seeing above are for remembrance of all the athletes who have lost their life due to mental health.